Hey yo, it's me, Anthium. Thank you for coming to the first official video for TaleSpinning with Two Tails. Now, I did a vote based on two story options for you guys, one science fiction, one dark fantasy. And while I quoted the numbers wrong in my update video, it was actually a vote of 3-2. The winner was C.O.R.E.S, the science fiction adventure story. So this is going to be a quick explanation on where the inspiration came from, a detailed breakdown of the plot, and taking my wife's advice and swift kick in the butt, I'm going to update my timelines to try and do something for the story segment about every 2 weeks instead of once a month. Um, so here we go. The concept for Course is actually inspired by combining different elements from uh, Mega Man, Tron, and a couple of other like futuristic stories and little bits and pieces of different sci-fi uh, story arcs. Like, for example, I like the Tyranids from Warhammer. I have something planned for something close to that, and so forth. Mega Man, of course, being almost like a world full of automatons, having the ability to defeat your enemies and take their powers was a mechanic that I particularly like from that story series. And of course, Tron, it all happens inside a computer. As programs, so I kind of wanted to combine the elements of different things there, and in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of series, movies, shows, stories that revolve around the end of the world and the post-apocalypse, so to speak, and how the survivors get by. But no one really addresses the idea what happens after that survival and society has been reestablished in a meaningful way. So this led me to the idea. Now, I hesitated to go with this story because of the current pandemic. But I started planning for it years ago, and I'm going to run with that. So the actual idea is that the world falls victim to a viral plague that is like the flesh-eating virus, but it is like 100 times worse because it actually is just an organic matter devouring virus. It eats everything. And this forces humankind to set aside the differences to do whatever they can, not just to save themselves, but to save the world. And ultimately, this truce between people falls apart a little bit, and you have different factions that wind up surviving in different ways, and that will be explained better in the introduction. Now, the course, C.O.R.E.S, stands for Cyber Organic Revival Environmental System. The idea is that one of the main focal point, they develop a unique technology that creates an artificial, organic, cybernetic, electronic type material that allows them to actually grow bodies, but it takes time. So through a very unique process and a second set of technology, they managed to map, record, and store human personalities, memories, and minds in what's called a brain bank. And hundreds of years later, when the virus has died off and the world has been remade due to a third factor, which again, more details in the introduction. I don't want to spoil everything, so please be patient. Um, the human society comes back online. Humans have become something more because of their now augmented bodies and forms. There is no real aging. There is no more viral issues. People don't get sick anymore. And to a very strange extent, because some of the solutions have changed the entire world itself. It's not just an exploration of a new world that's no longer the original Earth and home world, but it's an exploration of who they are, what it makes a human, and so forth. Now, the solution, while it presented a whole bunch of strengths for a new species of humanity, for a lack of better term there, it also has certain side effects and drawbacks because the technology was limited. Um, not everyone could be saved, which caused a fraction or a schism inside the organizations that were trying to save the world. And as such, other means were used to try and save more people and that sort of thing. There is a sinister motive behind the entire thing, which gets explored later in the story. Now, the story takes place following a newly awakened young core, and his name is Bastion. Bastion starts out working as a diagnostician, a diagnostic specialist. There was no real need for doctors, but exploring the new core genome and their abilities and so forth is paramount to the success of this new revival for the planet. And Bastion very quickly establishes himself as a genius level specialist, and he's given a very unique task. He's given the task of being a founder. Now, a founder is given special permissions from the Guardian Council, which will be explained later as well. And what a founder is able to do is they're able to actually go out into the world and literally access the planet's mainframe, so to speak, and shape the land and terrain and establish entire cities in a single go. And then workers come in and they furbish it up and so forth, and it's just maintaining that captured territory. Now, so he is given the job of being a new founder. And he goes on this adventure with a group of colonists, for a good term, or explorers, and they run into something completely and totally unexpected out in the wild, and it turns everything on its head. And as that story progresses, Bastion comes to realize that this utopian society that he lives in, where no one gets sick, people don't age, everyone's just happy all the time, there's resources and supplies for everyone. It turns out that it's not as perfect as he thought it was. And this other group, this other thing that he's encountered out in the wild, has a very different experience, a very different outlook, and they're very much from the same ancient past that Bastion himself has come from. So there's a lot of dynamic play there. And then moving past that story arc, if this proves to be popular with you guys, there are 2 additional sub-arcs that actually go and get added to this, which ultimately, by the end of it, brings the entire story full circle back to the very origin. So a lot of thought has been put into it. Initially with the introduction in chapter 1, there will be not an initial choice for you guys, but the story should be done in very small bite-sized portions to help you be engaged. I also have an idea on how to work the video, so it's not just a static black screen. It'll take some working and tweaking, because I want to script it. I want this to be polished. I want this to be audibly legible, so to speak. But I also want it to be a good time. So definitely feel free to give me any comments. Hit me with any questions. If you do have, if I get enough questions, maybe I'll do an entire video just answering your questions. And so pretty soon, in another 2 weeks, you'll be hearing the introduction to C.O.R.E.S, basically a prologue to C.O.R.E.S. So thank you for coming by. Thank you for checking out TaleSpinning. I do hope that you're as excited as I actually am. And all the best.
Stay safe.
Be foxy.
Stay safe.